Ozpin is a character who, as time has gone on, I myself have begun to trust him less and less. In Volume 1, there was no real basis for anything. He was presented as a good guy, and so I perceived him as such. Volume 2, same thing, only I was reinforced by his good guy behavior because of the speech that he gave to all the students. But then Volume 3 happened, and this is where my view of him just tilted. As someone who I perceived as a good guy for 2 years, all of a sudden I wasn't viewing him as such. Even going through Volume 4 only grew my questioning of Ozpin and what his motive is, and the addition of RWBY Grimm clips, whether it be canon or not, only added fuel to this growing fire. You see, Ozpin has a lot of enemies. Ozpin has a lot of enemies. Not Port, not Oobleck, not Glinda, Ozpin. It seems as though no villain so far has had any gripe with any of the other teachers at Vale specifically, nor do they mention any other headmaster by name, I don't believe. Ozpin tends to be the specific name and person that is targeted when it comes to most, if not all of the villains so far. It just seems as though many of the characters that Ozpin crosses paths with will either become his ally or an enemy, and more times than not, it appears as though he makes enemies. And it's because of that I've begun to not trust Ozpin as much as I used to. But why? It's more than just, he has a lot of enemies. See, we all know that Ozpin is based off Ozpin Head from The Wizard of Oz. He was the wizard. If you don't know that by now, what's wrong with you? But in certain versions of The Wizard of Oz, the wizard wants to make everyone happy, keep them as happy as can be. He believed there was only good and only bad. A real black and white situation he believed in. You are either on the side of good or you're on the side of bad. Within that story that Crow told Team Ranger, that seemed to be the agenda he was pushing for. You have a pure good god, light, and a pure evil god, dark. So perhaps Ozpin, much like the wizard, could only believe in a light is good, dark is bad, when in fact, there is this gray area in the middle. Now, speaking of lying, let's get back to Ozpin Head. I think it's fair to classify Ozpin Head's character as a liar. Whether it be for good reasons or for bad reasons, a common trope for his character is a liar. He lies to people, he lies to the public, it's in his nature. In RWBY, Ozpin is kinda that. He's a liar. He lies to the public. He determined that it was for their own good that they don't know about the relics. They don't know about the maidens, so he's constantly lying to everyone, even his own students at times. As it stands right now, only a handful of people really know about the maidens and what's going on. There are still a large majority of huntsmen that are supposedly unaware of what's really happening. Whether it be for good reasons or bad, Ozpin hides this information from many people. So what's to say that he doesn't do this for the ones that we think that he trusts? He never told RWBY about her silver eyes. Crow did. Crow is the one who told Team Ranger about the story of gods. Crow is the character who is divulging all this information onto people. As far as we know, only Ozpin's group are aware that he can transfer his conscious, if that is what he's doing. That's only speculation at this point. It's confirmed that Crow knows this. I'm just presuming everyone else in that group knows as well. But the most sketchy thing about him is the fact that he's hiding so much from so many people. In the end, it just looks shady. Now, let's talk about his job. It's a clear fact that Ozpin is a headmaster. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Ozpin was a headmaster. In the world of Remnant talking about huntsmen, Ozpin says that each academy is free to teach their students the way they want to teach them. Hence, he uses Atlas as an example, saying that Atlas students live a more militaristic lifestyle. So Ozpin is essentially allowed to shape his students into whatever mold that he wants. He is free to do whatever. Atlas seems to be going for more military soldiers, but Ozpin is very intent on each of his students becoming guardians. They all must become guardians. Once again, why? The perception, as far as we're aware, is to defend those who can't defend themselves from Grimm and such. Who's even to say that Ozpin has the perfect ideal for what a guardian should be? There's nothing much I have to say with him being a headmaster. In that world of Remnant, he also brings up that their students should be kept separate from Kingdom Allegiance once they graduate, which I myself find confusing. Because if you spend multiple years at a single school, training under the same teachers, following the guide of the headmasters, how are you supposed to prevent the students from Kingdom Allegiance? There would be an obvious bias toward the kingdom you trained under. So just because the headmasters agree that the students shouldn't play favorites, there is of course going to be this unfair bias. And perhaps Ozpin is playing under that gamble. Perhaps he's betting on the fact that his students will follow him and trust him to the very end, no matter what his goal is. He's very keen on many things, such as, like it or not, he plays favorites. He plucked RWBY off the streets essentially because of her silver-eyed powers. He allowed Jean, this presumably useless idiot, into an academy with some of the best huntsmen there are, and he chose Pyrrha to swap souls with the maiden. Ozpin plays favorites, and he's doing that with a lot of the trump cards of the school. And another important thing that I wanted to bring up for this theory is that if you go back and listen to the lyrics of Time to Say Goodbye, there is a specific line. Ozpin has been keen on his students becoming guardians to perhaps just use them as weapons so he can follow through with his own agenda. If you're unaware, the songs in RWBY are much different than other anime. In RWBY, the songs tend to convey a message, usually told from a perspective of a character. While none of the songs directly tell you who it's about and what it's saying, it's usually left for the audience to determine that, and some say that Time to Say Goodbye is told from the perspective of RWBY. But in the end, what does Ozpin have to gain if he really is planning something? Well, that's the ultimate question, isn't it? There are just a lot of different flags that are being raised for me that makes me believe that he truly is hiding what his end goal is from everyone. And I don't fully trust him anymore. But what do you guys think? Do you, like me, think that Ozpin isn't as good of a guy as they want us to believe? Or is he really trying to be a hero? Be sure to let me know what you guys think of this down in the comments. Subscribe if you're interested in more content like this, and I'll see you in the next video.